Hello, hi, and welcome. You are listening to Gully Cricket to Bounce Wicket podcast. I'm your host Srinivas, and I'm joined by Raja from Gurgaon today. So, Raja, how has your week been?
Pretty busy. But it
So,
was fun. I finally traveled quite a bit and got to see the country and what people are doing again in between waves.
so,
No,
la- so last week when we were recording, you were in Hyderabad, and this week you
right,
are
right.
in Gurgaon. So, I mean, that's a quite a bit of ground you have covered there.
Yeah. Thank you. But it is just a phase of some mandatory travel and all that. So I had to make sure that I finish certain things.
I think it has been a busy week for cricket fans, especially because West Indies playing Australia 5 T20As, and India played England women, and Ireland is playing South Africa, and Pakistan is playing England. It's been quite busy week. Of course, I mean, due to the timings and office and all, I also could not follow everything, but at least we have our friends in Crickbuzz and ESPN Crick Info who give us ball to ball updates. So yeah, I could follow scores a bit, and then even in India and England women's T20I, it's hard to follow, man. I understand, like even men's team when they play West Indies, it becomes difficult. But match starting at 11:30,
Yeah.
especially me not being a night person, it's quite a bit of challenging to follow. But yeah, followed a bit. So let's start with women's game. As they say, always women's are first. So let's start our discussion this week with women's game. So Raja, we discussed last week a bit that if India win the T20 series outright, we'll get a chance to lead the tour points over England, but that did not happen. At least if India wins the series, the whole tour would have been squared off. That did not happen.
Right.
But yeah, India lost the series unfortunately, and England won the complete tour as per the point system that they have decided before the tour. But it is not as bad as what it sounds for India, right? There has been a lot of learning points throughout the tour, right from the test series to one day series to T20. So what are your thoughts on that, Raj?
Absolutely, I couldn't have said it any better. The series on the outside of it, if you just look at the points table, it might seem as England has run away with everything, but the whole series came down to the last match. And considering the fact that this is a full-fledged overseas tour that India is playing after the 2020 World Cup,
Right.
so much having gone into it, and there's a lot of behind the scenes. Like the issues with the coaches being shifted and all that. There were a lot of uncertainty, and with all those stories and with the kind of squad that India had, and there were a lot of youngsters, and all of them doing well in bits and pieces. It's just that maybe England were much a bit better, but th- India should not feel disappointed with the effort, at least, because the whole series came down to the last match. And even the last game, if you look at it was pretty even Stevens for a long time. India put up a very good score, and England really had to dig hard to overcome that. So it was a very positive tour. No, it was all because are such a great team in women's cricket, and to having pushed them around to the fullest is an achievement in itself. And India should take a lot of credit from this, and there are a lot of learnings that have come out of this as well. So it's a positive tour, and there's only way ahead from here.
Yeah, Raja, like you mentioned, especially if you see the game or if you see the series from a fighting spirit point of view, I think the way India fought back in test match to start with, it was almost an impossible situation for India to come back in the test, and then they had come back there, and we have seen brilliance of Sneha Rana and Deepti Sharma there. If not for them, we'd have lost the match with an innings difference or so. And then one day series, of course, team look little rusty. Like you mentioned, they are playing after some gap and big overseas tour. And yeah, I mean, again, they came back in the third ODI, and coming to T20I, first T20I again, it's a DLS method, England won. But again, like you said, England is definitely a better team than India in this tour. We have to agree. At the same time, India has given tough fight. That summarizes the whole tour. Every time India came back and gave the fight, but unfortunately, results haven't come in favor of India. But we have to agree that we are outplayed by a better team on, especially in white ball cricket. And even if you see India's win in the second T20, Raja, it was again almost an impossible situation.
Correct.
England were to score run a ball almost. I mean, around 30 runs, 30 balls, something like
Around
that.
7 or 8 wickets in hand.
Yeah. From that point, and the bowling of the last 4 or 5 overs were bowled by only spinners, not the fast bowlers also. I mean, it was amazing way the Deepti Sharma bowled or Sneha Rana bowled in the 20th over. I mean, it's quite difficult, right, to come back from that situation and then showing the great. And yeah, it's unfortunate, like I mentioned, if they would have won the last T20I, the whole series card would have looked much better. But again, it's an individual series without any specific context. So I don't think Indian team will take it too much. But I think they'll take all the learnings from here to the Australia tour scheduled probably 2 months later.
Right. What you said about Sneha Rana was actually brilliant. She was the story of India's series, right? She battling it out and bowling beautifully in the Test match, and then carrying that form into the ODIs, and a complete all-round performance across T20s. And this coming from a point where she wasn't even in the squad for the last few years. Brilliant to see, and I think if India put more faith in her and give her a longer and consistent run, she'll turn out to do even better and bring out even more match-winning performances. So yeah, I think good to see that. Especially we didn't talk with the Test match in itself. Playing after 7 years and battling it out, and number 8 or number 9 partnership of her, Sneha Rana and Tanya Bhatia, just like surviving and making sure that India go to a safe position. I think that's where the fight back spirit started, and that continued, I feel.
Yeah, I think there is something with 17-year-old women and Indian cricket, right? Because we have seen Shafali Verma doing what she has been doing for the last 1.5 years or so, and now with the wicket keeper in the women's team, Richa Ghosh especially, like she is also 17 years old, way that she is batting aggressively and being in the field. I think it's amazing to see young crop coming. And another big positive for me in T20 series especially is Smriti Mandana. If you ask me, she getting some runs under her belt is such a nice thing to see, especially when others are failing, right? Seniors pulling up. Even Harmanpreet Kaur got some few runs at least. Like in the previous series, she was not getting runs. Even in ODS, we have seen her struggling. At least T20, we cannot say she is complete back to normal, but at least she is on the way, right?
Even in Test cricket, even in the lone Test match, both Harman and Smriti were struggling. But it's good. But at the end of the series, I think at the end of the whole tour, in fact, everybody has put up their hand. There wasn't one player who went in with a huge reputation and failed to deliver. We can say that.
And just to lift up our spirits, see that catch from Harleen.
Yeah.
Man, that was all over internet for 2 days. At least there are a lot of people actually comments coming from countries like USA, where they were thinking this different game. Like not many people in USA know cricket, right? There were comments like how she is catching the ball without gloves on. So all these kinds of comments saying probably baseball and also like it's quite uplifting for women's cricket. At least people talking more and more about women's cricket. And I think India will take all the learnings from this series to Australia tour, provided BCCI supports them with a good match practice. They have exactly 2 months gap from now to Australia tour. Again, they are playing, I don't know about the point system, but almost they are playing similar games, 3 ODIs, 1 test match and 3 T20Is. And test match, they are going to play pink ball test match. So it will be interesting to see. But BCCI has not cleared anything about their practice games, whether they're going to get a practice game with pink ball. So we don't know. Let's wait and see, and let's hope they'll get a good practice this time and then they'll come victorious from Australia tour.
Coming to the fielding, as you mentioned, that was a brilliant catch, and it's not just that catch which summarized which was the lone shining moment. Ground fielding across by the Indian team has been to very high standards. When you talked about the second T20, right? You could see that around 4 to 5 runouts happened, and that changed the game. So the ground fielding was intense. The intensity was up all around. They were making sure that there were no loose runs and this thing. So maybe on a player-to-player basis, England had a much better squad and a team. But what the efforts that were put in the field, especially, made sure that the gap wasn't as huge at the end of the day. And every run saved was a run scored. So brilliant to see that. And as you mentioned already, this was a clip. Harleen Deol's catch was a clip that literally went viral, and that's great for women's cricket and cricket in general. And
I think speaking of fitness and fielding, I think one area of improvement which I feel for the entire series is running between the wickets. I don't know if you have observed, but that has been little poor from the team. See, we cannot expect like men's cricket, not because they are women, but the dimensions of the women's cricket ground itself is a little bit smaller, right?
Yeah.
It's not easy for you to probably hit a ball to long on and run for two. It's a bit difficult, but at the same time, even converting singles is one area where I think this women's cricket has to improve. And I'm sure with the new coach, and they must be looking things with a new perspective. And let's hope we'll get all the things right in Australia too.
And another added to maybe another improvement area would be the fast bowling contingent a little bit. Because even in seaming and swinging conditions, we're still heavily dependent on the spinners to save matches and take wickets. So maybe bringing in a lot more, building up a core of good young and upcoming fast bowling options would be a great addition to the team. Surely the people who are there, your Jhulan Goswami or Shikha Pandey, Arundhati Reddy, they've all done well. But in key moments, I think that they've not been able to take advantage of the conditions as much, and they would also be admitting to that. So maybe this is an area that Indian women's cricket team should look at.
Definitely, Raja. And speaking of England's players, I think Sophie Ecclestone, she's staying rent free for past 3 months in India's minds, right? I mean, she has dominated India completely, and every match she'll come and bowl on the final over. Like every T20, she bowled 20th over, and she's world number one bowler. And her bowling action often reminds me of Jadeja. I don't know about you, but she often reminds me of Jadeja. Such a clean bowling action and such a confident. And she's what I think 21, 22 still.
Yeah, pretty much. She's been doing well consistently over the years, and as you said, every time she came on to the bowling mark, it seemed like something could happen. And a lot of times it did happen. So, but again, as I said, they are a very strong team. And it's not just one Ecclestone. You have your Nat Sivers and, starting Tammy Beaumont. And everybody has been just pushing way up towards a level which is very high. So it was a tough tour, and definitely India will take a lot of heart and learnings from this, and onwards towards Australia. And as you said, maybe more practice games and maybe better results.
Yeah, let's hope for that. And let's move on to our next topic, which is your India. I don't know what to call the team: A team, B team, C team, or just India men's team playing white ball cricket in Sri Lanka. So, Raja, Shikhar Dhawan has been announced as captain, and your favorite Bhuvneshwar Kumar is vice captain now. So, what are your thoughts on this series before we go into picking our squads?
Understandably, there's a lot of discussion on if it is a B team, C team, and whatever it is. But it's good for Indian cricket that we have such a huge bench strength and different experts in different formats that we're able to send a very strong team. In fact, this is the squad. If you go through it, this is a squad that can represent India, even if this whatever the people in the test team don't. This is a team that can represent India across different countries and can still have expectations of doing well. So it will be a good test. And this is also probably the only international tour that white ball tour that India will have before the World Cup. So
Right.
this will also be very important for players who are on the fringes to make it to the this along with the IPL, of course, but this will be a stepping stone for a lot of players to come back into the Indian squad. We can for lack of a better term, to the Indian main squad. So it will be a good tour for a lot of players, and we can go through the squad as well.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the squad and bench strength, Raja, even if let us say if there is a match between this team and the proper T20 team of India, you can never say that that team is going to win, right? I mean, anything can happen. So this team is looking that way. Like they can also win, and even the main team can also win. So, and again, coming back to bench strength, we have two 20-member squads right now in one squad in Sri Lanka, one in England. Yet we are worried that few players are not picked. He should have picked, and then he should have gone to the tour. So whatnot. So it's amazing to see such a bench strength. It's not 15 or 12-member squads also. These are 20-member squad. And then we still feel, two or three players would have got selected here and there. So that's amazing. And build up to the tour, I think, again, the comments by Ranatunga and, series getting postponed due to COVID positives. And there is so much of buzz about this series. At one point of time, in fact, if you remember, I was mentioning I was not sure whether this tour will go on or not, right? Because there was continuously COVID positives coming from Sri Lankan team, 2-3 players. And then, yeah, it's good that, like you mentioned, we don't have any other international matches before T20 World Cup. We have IPL 7 games, but again, international match is always an international match because players coming together and playing is different, right? Players playing for different teams is completely different. So it's good that finally this series is going ahead and we'll get to see some games in the next few days. So again, coming back to Sri Lanka, I don't know. Frankly, many players in Sri Lankan team right now, there are so many players and so many changes of late. And even in fact, the other day, the news has come that there is a change in captaincy and the current captain is the 10th captain starting from 2017. So it's unbelievable. So yeah, let's talk about Indian squads, Raja, starting with the white ball game. So if you look at squads, I think Shikhar Dhawan being captain and Bhuvneshwar Kumar and Hardik Pandya are three players who are going to play all the 6 games, if not injured, right? Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, I agree. And we might also see Hardik bowl a little bit.
Yeah,
more.
Definitely. I think he's bowling in nets. That's what the news is, at least. He's bowling in the nets and practice games. So I think definitely he's going to bowl because that is going to be crucial for the World Cup when India play in October. So right. I think Shikhar Dhawan, if you ask me, will be accompanied by Prithvi Shaw. So what do you think?
I am very excited to see what Prithvi Shaw does. He's been in some. It's not even a purple patch. It's a golden. What terms can you use? He's been brutal, and the starting from the year from the Vijay Hazares and carrying that into the brief IPL spell, and then into that pushing his way into the Indian squad. I'm very excited to see how Prithvi Shaw does this time. To a large extent, I also feel that he might also play most of the games.
Yeah, I think at least all the 3 ODIs, the opening may not change. Right. Because I think even before the tour has started, Rahul Dravid and Shikhar Dhawan in the press meet, they have cleared that not all the players are going to get chances. This is a huge squad, and then again, winning the games is important. So we may not see too much of chopping and changing. Maybe if India wins the first 2 matches out of the 3, then they go away for changes. But otherwise, I think
a good thing to have a right hand left hand combination.
Yeah, and true. That's another
particle is in the squad as well. But
yeah. So who do you think ODI number 3 will be?
I'd like to see Surya Kumar Yadav, in fact.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's been doing well at 4 and 5 and all that. I think the additional responsibility and playing there will also add to his skills. And it will be exciting to see. Well, what do you feel? Who's going to
Yeah,
be?
I think Surya Kumar Yadav will get a chance there. But I have a point about Padikkal, but we'll come back to that after we'll finish the top order. So number 3, let us say, will be Surya Kumar Yadav. Who will be your number 4? Manish Pandey?
I think, yeah, Pandey deserves at least the first game.
I think he deserves a place in ODI team,
yeah.
definitely, being a cap player, and then he was with the Indian team for some time. So I think he will be your number 4, definitely. So your number 5 will be keeper?
Number 5, sure, yeah. I'll put in
Sanju Samson or Ishan Kishan. Who will you go with?
Ishan Kishan had struggled a bit, right? Maybe at least for the first game, I would like to see Ishan get a chance, but
yeah. So okay, so if Ishan Kishan is your if Sanju Samson is your number 5, or number 6 is already fixed, right? Hardik Pandya.
Correct.
So your top 6 is fixed with Shikhar Dhawan, Prithvi Shaw, Surya Kumar Yadav, Manish Pandey, Sanju Samson, and Hardik Pandya, right? So now my point about Padikkal is he was in very good form in Vijay Hazare, right? And T20I, definitely number 3 will be Surya Kumar Yadav, and your opening will be definitely left, right, with again Shikhar Dhawan and Prithvi Shaw. So my point here is, why not play Padikkal at number 3 in ODI squad?
That's a good point.
In place of Surya Kumar Yadav. Surya Kumar Yadav, for now, India is trying him in T20Is, so let's keep that alive and let's give chance for him in T20Is. So why not give Padikkal, a number 3 chance? So that's the only thing I feel it may, change, because he is also very good. He was also very good at Vijay Hazare, right? Correct. That's the very basis that he got selected into this squad. So I think that is one chance. Maybe let us see how team will, take it forward. So now
number 7 would be Krunal Pandya for you.
Yeah, I think.
Would you bring in Krishnappa Gautam? What do you think?
Again, I think it depends on Sri Lanka's team as well. What is their left-right combination and what kind of players they are going to get, right? Because spinners for me is Kulcha. Definitely, I think they deserve a chance in the ODI team, at least, if not for the T20.
But as high as number 7?
No, not as number 7. I'm telling about overall the combination, because already you will have a left-arm bowler in Kuldeep if you play Kuldeep and Chahal. So it depends whether you need another left-arm spinner or right-arm spinner. That's what I'm thinking about. But I think to start with, at least Krunal Pandya will get a chance, because I think he played for ODI team recently, right? My memory is poor. So
correct.
So I think he made his ODI debut recently. So to start with, at least Krunal will play, and then you will have Bhuvneshwar Kumar, and then Kuldeep and Chahal. Now that will leave with one bowling spot, right? Fast bowler you need. Correct. You have only, 1.5 fast bowlers now because of Hardik and Bhuvneshwar. So who do you think will get a chance? Deepak Chahar or Navdeep Saini?
I honestly, I would like to see at least for the first game, maybe Navdeep Saini getting a slight preference ahead of it, because Bhuvneshwar and Deepak Chahar could be looked at as similar strengths. And if you need an enforcer kind of bowler at the death and just to rattle the batsmen a bit, batters a bit.
And he even brings some extra space also into the team.
Yeah, right? That's what I meant. So maybe I would give a preference to Navdeep Saini ahead of Deepak, at least for the first game. But surely Deepak Chahar deserves a chance, and we had spoken about him and how he's always on the fringes, and we haven't been able to develop the next swing bowler. Probably when the things are a little bit more settled, I think you should look at giving him more opportunities. But at least for ODI cricket, for ODIs, maybe Navdeep has a slight edge. Maybe in the T20s, surely Deepak Chahar could be an asset.
Yeah, so our bowling will be, if you ask me now, Krunal Pandya, Bhuvneshwar Kumar, Navdeep Saini, Chahal and Kuldeep, right? I don't think maybe 1 or 2 changes they can make from this, but other than this, I think this is a good squad for ODIs at least.
Yeah.
So let's discuss a bit about what changes that are possible for T20s. So your opening will change, or opening will be same? Left, right?
Left, right, yeah. I think I'd stick with the same.
So
first T20.
So Surya Kumar Yadav for sure in T20Is.
Correct.
Right, your number 3. So now we are.
Or I could also I also like the idea of Ishan Kishan at number 3 for T20s.
Yeah.
Right, he can be that dashing player out at number 3, and or Suryakumar. Both of them are.
Yeah. Anyway, 3-4. Let us say between both of them, 3-4. Both will play T20s. I think both will play T20s. So if now, so your top 4 are fixed, and your number 5 will be Samson, or you have already a keeper, so you'll go for extra batsman.
I think we could take the idea of an extra batsman, but I'm just going through the spot. Who would be better? I don't know.
Because everyone, hardly there are any middle order players. You have Nitish Rana.
I think maybe again maybe it would be toss up between Nitish Rana and Manish Pandey. I don't know.
For middle order.
Yeah, number 4, number 5.
Okay, I think it's okay. But in that case, Samson will miss, right?
Samson might miss out, maybe, yeah. Or you could play both of them. You could play Ishan Kishan and Sanju Samson as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling. So I think your 5 will be, 3 will be Suryakumar Yadav and 4 will be Ishan Kishan, or other way around, like you said. And then your 5 will be Samson, 6 will be Hardik Pandya.
And 7 Krunal, maybe.
Krunal may get better of Gautam, and again, like I said, it depends on what combination the Sri Lanka is playing and what type of bowlers that we want to choose. Now, interesting point will be who will be spinners in T20.
I would go for, Bhuvneshwar fits in at number 8. Number 9, I would have Yuzvendra Chahal, and for number 10, I would take in Varun Chakravarti for
not Rahul Chahar,
or I think Rahul Chahar and is a leg spinner. You have Yuzvendra Chahal also as a leg spinner. Both are similar strengths, and maybe Varun Chakravarti brings in a bit more accuracy into the proceedings, and that's where I think he gets a slight edge in terms of the T20 squad.
Yeah.
What do you feel?
Yeah, I think both will get a chance at some point in time in the 3.
At least for the starting.
Yeah, because Chahal and Chahar, right? Both seems to be an important players, keeping T20I World Cup in mind, because India has to be very sure about whether they have to play Chahal or not. So definitely they have to give chance and see how he's performing, because of late we have seen a bit of deterioration in his skills, you can say. Our skills are, the way he bowls. So, and Chahar on the other hand is on the rise. So definitely I think some point in time, maybe 1 or 2 games both will play. And I think Varun Chakravarti should get a chance. At least we should, let him show his talent, right? When you are selecting, definitely. And I don't think Kuldeep will get chance in T20 anymore, because in IPL also he's finding it difficult to get a chance. So I think Varun Chakravarti should get a chance. So at least he'll have 3 games to really prove that, he's worth at the highest level.
Yeah.
So that could be one possible change. And coming to bowling, do you think Sakaria will get a chance here?
Probably not. I don't know. How good do you feel is his death bowling skills? Maybe because that will maybe give him an edge.
Yeah, I think.
But he's a left arm, definitely.
Yeah. You have anyway one end being protected by Bhuvneshwar in the death, right? That is for sure. So I think he'll get a chance. He might get a chance because he's left-hander purely. That is one possibility. I don't know. So I think Saini will find it difficult to get into this T20Is. I don't know. I tend more with Deepak Chahar and Bhuvneshwar Kumar.
But I have another point here. Do you still want to play 2 spinners when you have Krunal Pandya, who will give you 4 overs? Regardless of any kind of situation, he will give you 4.
Yeah, that's one possibility. Or they can play Sakaria
and Deepak Chahar also.
Yeah, right? Deepak Chahar and Bhuvneshwar also. That is one possibility. It depends on the pitch as well, right? It depends on what they see on the pitch. If it seems to be slow, then they might go with spinners. And if they think, if it is for fast bowlers, then I think overall the squad is good. We have multiple options, and T20A seems to be more interesting actually. Picking one day squad seems to be easier, and especially.
So what about we haven't spoken about Ruturaj Gaikwad or Krishnappa Gautam to that extent? What do you think are there?
I think it's difficult for Ruturaj Gaikwad to get a chance. I don't know, even in T20As maybe, because your Suryakumar Yadav and Ishan Kishan have already made their debut for T20A, right? Mm-hmm. So before selectors take a final decision on their places in the World Cup, they definitely need the game time. So if I don't know if Prithvi Shaw fails in T20, I mean one days, maybe Ruturaj Gaikwad may get a chance to open along with Dhawan. I think that could be one possibility, because I don't think they'll play him at 5, right? Definitely they are not going to play him at 5 in T20As.
What about Nitish Rana?
Nitish Rana, but where do they play him? That's the question. Means again, he's a top order batsman, right? Your one end of the top order is fixed with Shikhar Dhawan. And you have now Ruturaj Gaikwad, Padikkal and Nitish Rana playing for the number 2 position.
Right.
So it's quite difficult. If Prithvi Shaw gets going, I think these guys have to sit and warm the bench for the series.
Yeah.
We may not see the direction that they wanted to go right now, but I'm sure by this time they would have had their plans. They would have had the requirements, what to be tested before T20I World Cup, right? Correct. They would have got some message from the selectors saying, these 3 guys these 4 or these 5 guys has to play because there is something that we have dilemma in our mind and all. So I think they will, definitely the team will have better clarity than us, and let's hope, they'll win both the series. So what do you think will be final score for the series? We are playing 3 T20Is and 3 one days. So let's start with one days. So
one days, maybe 2-1. I feel it's 2-1 for India.
Okay, even I feel the same, 2-1 for India. I want to say 3-0, but I don't want to be overconfident. And, especially when this team hasn't played together, right? Even Sri Lanka, there are a lot of changes, but at least, they know the situation better than India. Especially considering we are playing in Sri Lanka. So that's the only reason why I'm considering 2-1. And T20Is?
Honestly, if you ask me, 3-0 for India. I think it will be difficult for Sri Lanka. But again, I could have egg on my face by the end of our discussion. But it's just what I feel, because in terms of T20 skills, India seem to be a better team. And Sri Lanka just recently had a very bad tour coming back from England, where they struggled quite a bit. So I think in terms of T20s, India seems to be having a better chance. I don't know what you feel.
Yeah, definitely. I think T20 team is, I would say, much settled or much better team, because T20 is like ODI doesn't need, too much of gelling or strategy or something like that, right? Everyone need to just know their specific role and they have to go and perform. And these guys are experts in doing that, because in IPL, these guys keep changing the teams, right? Mm-hmm. They got used to those changings and then adjusting to the teams and coming back and going out of the team. Because of IPL, I would say they will feel more comfortable in T20s. And yeah, I feel India should win 3-0 comfortably. I want Sri Lanka to compete really well, because this win or lose doesn't make anything for India, right? I just want Indian players to be more and more tested in this series and then be ready for the T20 World Cup.
Yeah. And I feel Sri Lanka also has a lot of has a point to prove. They have they've literally been butt of a joke for the last couple of years in terms of how their standards have fallen, from being World Cup winners just 6-7 years ago to having to struggle to have a proper 11, having so many disciplinary issues, people being sent back, people being brought on and out of the blue, with so much instability in the administration as well. With their decisions, there are a lot of infighting and factionism and all that. But ultimately, it comes down to what you're representing your country in a sport that you've trained for your whole life in your conditions. I think they will want to show India that they have the required skills to compete and even overcome them.
Definitely, Raja. I think a good competition from them is what is needed, and definitely, a good performance is what brings their fans together again, because a lot of them are upset in Sri Lanka, and obviously, like you mentioned, as late as 2014, they have won a T20 World Cup, right? It's hardly 7 years, and even if you consider there is no cricket in 1 year in between, it's like 5-6 years back they were world champions, and then
there's only been one T20 World Cup after that.
Right. Yeah, and going and playing, World Cup qualifiers is such a shame for such a legendary team who, I mean, yeah, it's quite upset, right? The other day, Ranatunga saying those things about Indian team or Sri Lanka team. He's a World Cup winning captain, and it's quite obvious that why they're upset. So let's hope we'll get a competitive series to see, and good that it is finally starting without any further delay. So let's move on to our next old segment, Raja. How's that? Like you mentioned that last week we are restarting How's that? So I took inspiration from that and I brought another story this week. This week I'm going to talk about, you can say, the first spinner for India ever. His name is Palwankar Balu. So Palwankar Balu was born in 1877 in Dharwad district of Karnataka. I mean, Dharwad itself is very close to Goa. So his native village is in Palwan, which is a small village in Goa. So that's how he got the name Palwankar Balu. He hailed from a family of leather workers, which was deemed to be a untouchable, untouchable division of the society. And then his father used to work in army, so their family moved to Pune. At that point in time, the family moved to Pune, and then along with his brothers, Balu joined as a groundsman in Parsi Cricket Club in Pune. So there his main role was groundsman role, and occasionally he used to bowl there. So from there he moved to European Cricket Club in Pune, where they used to pay him more than Parsi Cricket Club, and that's the very reason that he has moved. So earlier he used to get 3 rupees per month, and now he is getting 4 rupees per month, which is again more than 30%. So obviously, every one of us will change the job if you are getting more than 30% hike. So he changed his job there, and there his talent was found by one Mr. John Glennie Gregg. So he was the captain of the European team there. So he used to bowl him in the net. One incentive there to bowl well for him is he'll get 8 annas for every time he gets out Mr. John. Balu could not spell his name properly, so Balu used to call him Jungly. So every time he gets Jungly out, he'll get 8 annas. So to put this in context, so in a month, if Balu gets Mr. Jungly out for 8 times, he'll get double the salary. So 8 annas is basically 50 paise. So which means that he'll get double the salary if he gets him out 8 times a month. So, I mean, that seems to be a very good incentive, right? So he used to bowl there well. He used to bowl for long hours. And then he was very impressive. The whole European team was quite impressive. At this, I mean, if you remember, we spoke about the triangular and quadrangular series also. So at that time, it was triangular series, and there used to be 3 teams mainly: Parsis, Europeans, and Hindus team. And being a Hindu, he was supposed to play in Hindu team, but then there were internal discussions among the Hindus team that he's untouchable, we cannot use him. So what Mr. Jungly did was he called for a press conference, and then he said, there is one Mr. Palwankar Balu who plays very well, but unfortunately Hindus can't play him and all this. So that the whole issue took a different direction, and finally they had to play Balu because media wrote very bad things about this team in Bombay. So like finally they had to play. So then he was taken into team. He used to play really well. And one interesting fact is, even when he was playing in team, once he steps into ground, he'll become a normal human being. Once he step out of the ground, he becomes untouchable. So he cannot use the same crockery that the Hindus team used to drink coffee. So he will be served coffee in a separate space. So if he has to wash his face, a separate person will come and give water for him. He cannot use the same areas the other cricket members use. So it was, I mean, quite difficult for any player, right? Once he comes to the ground, he becomes a normal person. So he can throw the ball, they will take the catch, and everything is normal. So yeah, he kept playing for Hindus like this, and then he slowly shifted to Bombay because Bombay was where the main tournament was happening. And then he continued playing for Hindus, and overall in 1911, first time an All India cricket team was sent to England. So India was not recognized as a test playing nation at that time, but that was the time, when an All India team was somehow assembled, including people from all the communities, Hindus, Sikhs, everyone, Muslims and everyone. And then team was sent, and Balu was part of the team. And Balu, I think India played 23 matches in that series. Of course, it's inclusive of 14 first class games and then 9 second class games. And all the games put together, Balu took 114 wickets in the tour. So, and his average is less than 20. So that's amazing how good a cricketer he is. And how, imagine this story is happening in 1911 or early 1900s, and we all can see how prevalent the untouchability situation is back then, and him breaking barriers and coming into team and then representing India at the highest level and performing, for India. I mean, it's unbelievable. He got close to five wickets every game, right? I mean, 23 games, and he got 114 wickets. I think it's amazing. In fact, after that he came back, and then India haven't got any test recognition until 1932. So he used to play a triangular and quadrangular series. I think he was made. He was the outstanding player in the team overall. But just because he's from a lower caste, he was not made as a captain. He was made as a vice captain in the quadrangular for Hindus in 1920, and captain of the Hindus team back then, Mr. Pai. So he decided that he'll walk off the ground for some time to make sure Balu has been made as captain for at least some time. As a gesture to him, he walked off the field, and then Balu has captain team for I think 1 hour or 2 hours in that game. So finally, he ended his career as vice captain of the team only, not as a captain in 1920s. One good thing is he started breaking those barriers, right? Ultimately, in 1923, in a quadrangular game for Hindus, his brother, I think his name is Vittal, Mr. Vittal Palwankar has been named as captain of Hindus team, 1923. I think that itself is a big achievement, right? This is the story of Palwankar Balu. I hope you all enjoyed this story. I think primarily I have taken from the internet and from the book Wizards, written by Mr. Anindo Datta about the Indian spin bowling history. If you are interested, please do read that.
It's a very fascinating story.
So I think that brings us to end of this episode. We have discussed a lot of things in this episode, and I hope everyone of you listening have enjoyed this episode. Do leave your feedback to us on Twitter or YouTube. We are uploading all the episodes on YouTube, be it as audio version or video version, where you can let us know your opinion in the comments or any points of improvement, whether you like it or don't like it. Please do let us know your feedback. That really helps us to improve ourselves and make some good content. That's all for the episode, guys. Thank you. Bye bye. Stay safe, stay healthy.